There's two kinds of drunks. There's happy drunks and there's violent drunks. And I would get violent.
He just went like totally psycho on some people in this restaurant and almost caused this big fight.
We started to see that he was on the road to killing possibly all of us.
Before they even reached New York, James and Lars were listening to other bands' demos, hoping to find a replacement for Dave Mustaine.
We're playing tapes in the cab of the truck while he's asleep in the back on some stained mattress. I mean, that was the whole ugliness of that U-Haul trip.
Metallica arrived in New York in April of '83. Their first order of business was to rid themselves of Dave Mustaine.
All I remember was waking up and then being circled around me, and I just looked up.
Wake up, Dave, you know.
Get up, you're out of the band. And I said, what, no warning, no second chance?
It was almost like execution style. We just walked in, woke him up, fired him, grabbed him in his shit and took him down to the bus stop, and the whole thing took, 45 minutes.
It does sound pretty bad, wake up, bye, but it really had to happen that way.
The breakup was hard on everybody.
I remember this like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the back of James's pickup when they drove me to the bus station, and I looked at James, and he was weeping.
We were brothers up to that point, and then something had pulled us apart, and we knew it had to continue that way, so it was emotional for all of us.
I'd seen my dad in a coma and dying, and this was probably more harmful to me than anything I'd ever been through.
Dave spent the next 4 days on a bus bound for Los Angeles, seething over his expulsion.
I hated him. I was so mad at them, and I figured I need to regroup and I need to start over again because now I'm going to get revenge. Part of the whole reason why I formed Megadeth was to get back at them.
To the street, we'll cut you down.
Man, here it is. The birthplace of Megadeth.
Mustaine's challenge to Metallica began coming together just 2 months later in his Hollywood apartment complex.
That was Dave Mustaine's apartment right up there.
There was some guy living underneath me.
And I was living right down below.
And he was playing bass first thing in the morning, full blast.
It was Running with the Devil by Van Halen. So I was sitting there going, bum, bum, bum.
I have nothing against Van Halen, but that's the most horrible bass line to listen to if you're hungover.
Bum, bum, bum.
And all of a sudden, I hear this flower pot come smashing down onto my air conditioner. And I heard this guy yelling, "Shut up! Shut up!
Shut up!" And it stopped.
The bass player was 18-year-old David Ellefson, a native of the tiny town of Jackson, Minnesota. David had his sights set on rock stardom before he'd graduated middle school.
He formed a little group, probably about 13, 14 years old, and played on the front porch. Mothers made sandwiches and lemonade and invited all the neighbors in and all the kids.
All I wanted to do was be in a rock band. That was it.
In the summer of '83, David left Minnesota and headed to L.A. to chase his dream.
We had a lot of reservations. People would say, how can you let him go out to L.A.? That's where they're going to do drugs, they're going to do this and that and the other. But we thought, well, he was going to school, and we just had to kind of trust along the way.
I told my parents, well, look, there's a school out there called Musicians Institute, and maybe I'll go there.
Although he was accepted into the school, David would never take a class because within days, he collided with Dave Mustaine.
Well, these neighbors aren't too friendly here in California like they are back in Minnesota.
I hear this on my door, and I open the door, and there's these two kids.
Gives me this kind of like condescending look, the infamous Mustaine snarl.
And they go, hey, you know where to get some cigarettes? And I went,
yeah, down the street at the liquor store, and slams the door in my face.
Hey, are you old enough to buy beer? And I said, now you're talking.
We hooked up and went down the street, got a case of Heineken.
The rest is history. That's how David Ellefson got in the band.
Mustaine quickly took Ellefson under his wing, introducing him to hard drugs and a frantic musical style.
He was playing this stuff, and I was just, I was mesmerized. I was like, I have never heard anything like that before. That is cool.
The two began auditioning lead singers for the band, but none of them could match Mustaine's intensity.
Dave was driven, you know? I mean, you can almost say that he is possessed in a way. I remember the night that Dave just said, you know, fuck it, I'm just gonna sing, you know.
Even before the band's lineup was complete, Dave Mustaine had settled on a name for it, a word he'd stumbled upon during his darkest hour.
When I came home from New York in the bus, there was a handbill. I was writing lyrics on the back of everything. I'm bored, so I flip it over, and it's from Senator Alan Cranston, and he says, "The Arsenal of Megadeth can't be written." I thought, great song title. So I write the song Megadeth.
But the song turned into Set the World Afire. Megadeth -1A became the name of the band.